Welcome back to another Student Pages Spotlight interview, everyone. It is me, Jaden. Hope you're all doing very well today. Today we are joined by Simone Miller. How's it going?
Great, great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course, it's absolutely my pleasure. So, you have got a leading role in MGM's The Institute as Kalisha. That's a adaptation of a Stephen King novel, of course. That is such a huge achievement, first of all. So, massive congratulations.
Thank you.
I think the main thing is just, yeah, if you could just run us through like how you feel about that role. Do you think you were made for it? Is there any similarities between yourself and the character? What drew you to it in essence?
Yeah, no, it's definitely my favorite role that I've gotten to play thus far in my career. And I definitely felt immediately connected to Kalisha when I even initially got the audition. I feel like for every creative, every actor, like there are certain projects that kind of come across your desk where you're like, no, this has to be like, this is for me, like, I don't know. But when I initially got the audition, I just felt really instantly connected to Kalisha in the sense that basically the show kind of details these kids who have psychic abilities and are kidnapped into the Institute, where they're essentially exploited in order to enhance their powers. But what I loved about the story and specifically about my character Kalisha was that um, their personalities are, or sorry, their powers are second to their personalities and their grounding attributes. And I loved that kind of what carries them through the experience of the Institute is their, I guess, a dare, like they dare to still hope in a place so devoid of it and really cling to one another for dear life. And ultimately, it's the friendship and the love that they have for each other that kind of preserves their innocence and their likeness and keeps them human.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's an absolutely iconic story, isn't it? And I think, again, to sort of play a character that's so multifaceted, it takes a massive amount of talent. So, yeah, again, just absolutely massive props for actually securing that role. So obviously, the story itself is extremely fascinating, but what drew you specifically to the script? It's like when you read it, did that sort of speak to you to any volume?
Oh, for sure. I mean, when before I even got the script, like I obviously plowed through the book. I just fell in love with it and like could not put it down. But yeah, I think it was just it felt very like almost like a nod to Gen Z, where we kind of get poked fun at because we're a lot of the times we can be insatiable in systems of oppression and authoritative figures who maybe take advantage of their position. But I felt like it was representative of that in such a positive light in the way that kids are more than capable of achieving their goals and doing everything they want to achieve, regardless of the fact that maybe they're younger. But yeah, no, I really love the fact that it didn't damsel the kids. Like we aren't waiting to be saved, as opposed to like we know the only way that we're, gonna get out of here potentially if we do is, we're rolling up our sleeves and we're doing this together.
Yeah, no, it's about that independence, isn't it? Yeah, I'm really glad that the script actually reflected that part of the story. That's something really integral to it, and I'm really glad that that remained in the series. So, if you could just tell us a bit about your personal background then, and how that's helped you get to where you are today, like what drew you to acting in general.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I was a singer long before I was an actor. Even though I started quite young, I actually started acting because I was really shy. I'm still very naturally shy. Like it takes me a minute to like kind of warm up and come out of my shell. But when I was younger, I couldn't even hold a conversation. I was like terrified of people.
That's
Um,
crazy. You wouldn't think it. You wouldn't think it. Just saying from my perspective.
Thank you. I mean, I try my best. I don't know. But my mom put me into acting as kind of a way to bring me out of my shell and get me used to talking to people, much less performing, because I always knew that I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. I just didn't know how necessarily. I knew I loved singing and I loved the intimacy of performance and film. And really getting to be a part of people's lives, even though you or affect them and or impact them in to some capacity. Um, I loved that. But yeah, no. So my mom put me into acting when I was around 10 years old, And I always say I kind of fell in love with the film industry backwards, where I fell in love with being on set before I necessarily fell in love with uh, not watching films. I always loved watching films, but I definitely loved the process long before I was really solidified in like my favorite genres and directors and actors. Um, so yeah, and then carrying through with my acting career, I started writing when I was around 14 years old. I have had around, I believe, 5 singles out to date and more on the way. But yeah, no, it's just been a great journey, and I'm just so grateful. I know it can be a really volatile industry, so I'm just, really glad to have come this far. And honestly, it's been a dream come true getting to do a Stephen King adaptation. My gosh.
Yeah, no, it is incredible. I mean, honestly, it's so ridiculously awesome. And I do want to talk actually a little bit about your music, but just before we get onto that, I am curious about one thing. When you're like provided with roles and auditions, what kind of roles do you typically tend to go for? Is there a specific kind of role that you go for, or do you like to get as far out as you can?
Yeah, I really enjoy getting to play roles that are, I like both roles that I feel similar to. Like I love feeling connected to a character, but I also love getting roles where it's like so opposite to who I am, because it's really interesting to get to find that perspective. And I've loved the challenge of that. I definitely love dramatic psychological thrillers. Those are definitely like kind of my bread and butter in terms of genre. But yeah, no, like there's different challenges and fun to like every different genre or audition that I come across, even if it's not necessarily like off the dome the first thing that I'm excited to necessarily open up. But it's always, I don't know. I think there's like almost a level of spontaneity to it, because you never really know what you're gonna get in terms of auditions. So yeah, no, but I definitely veer towards drama and thriller.
Ah, very cool. Yeah, because there's a lot that you can sink your teeth into roles in those genres specifically. So yeah, absolutely. No, totally cool. So go on then. Let's get into your music. So you've got music set to release in October. Just tell us a little bit about that. So how did that process come about? I'm aware that you've done music in the past, but this is a pretty big release that you're working on. So where did that stem from? What got you to finally say, I'm doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a while since I've released any music. I think the last time I released a single, I was 17, and I'm like days away from turning 20, and I already have a complex about it, but it's fine. But I actually started writing a lot of the music that is set to come out while I was filming The Institute. And I felt like I had a really big writer's block for a few years, and I felt while I was filming The Institute, because I was so creatively like inspired while being on set and just being in that environment, I was just bubbling over with ideas when I got home and like on my days off. So I was just like perpetually sat at my piano, just working out new melodies and lyrics. But yeah, no, I think this project specifically feels really different to my other music in genre, but also just in subject matter. I feel like it's a lot more honest and raw than my other music, which I released when I was fairly young. And being an artist in terms of music is different to acting, because I feel like with acting you can always kind of put not a wall, but like it's not as personal. You like, yes, you're
Mhm.
being very emotional, but it's not necessarily your words or your stories. Whereas with music, like you are fully just spewing your heart out to anybody who wants to listen, and it's a daunting thing to, have these very personal and you know intimate stories that maybe you would have taken to the grave be displayed on such a public level. But yeah, no, I'm terrified, but honestly really proud of myself for allowing myself to dive this deep and share on this level. So I'm really excited. And yeah, I just hope people identify with my stories.
I'm really pleased for you. No, I think it's interesting, is it? With music is like as a thing in itself. It's fascinating because I think, like you said, I think when you're singing about your own experiences, not only is that your story, but it's also coming from your voice as well. And I think just the emotions that are so directly linked to that. I literally, we said on an interview not so long ago that I think those things are just impossible to avoid when it's coming from you. If it's your story and you're performing it, it's naturally going to be there. It's naturally going to show.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah. So go on then. You act, you sing, you do all of these huge things for your career. But outside of that, in your downtime, what do you get up to? And have you got any advice for students that want to balance a career like this and their own personal life?
I mean, I'm still figuring it out every day, to be honest. Balance is always like the one thing where it's subject to change depending on, uh what's kind of like the focus in terms of like for me, it's always either like acting or music am I really honing in on depending on like timelines of when I'm booking. But you always need to carve out time to stay grounded in your family and your friends because they keep you human. A lot of the times, doing these interviews and carpets and photo shoots, it feels like it's crazy. I don't know. It doesn't feel human to me. Like it's still something I'm navigating. But just, being able to go back to my friends and family and like goof off and just be stupid, you know what I mean? Like be a kid, is always really important to me. But also just finding those certain activities that are just yours and not something that you feel that you owe to your audience. For me, like I love working out. Not to say I'm like the strongest or anything, but it's a great outlet for me to just focus on my person and my physicality and yeah, in a way that I don't have to share with anybody else. It's just, an hour out of the day where I can just like focus on like one thing that's in front of me as opposed to like the million other things that are always like circulating creatively. But yeah, I think yeah, it's mostly just like making time for your family, friends, making time for like certain activities that just ground you. Um, but yeah, also even though things can feel crazy, you always take on, if you're in the position to take on kind of all these projects, do it. Do it.
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah. Why limit yourself? But no, I think what I'm hearing from you is that it's important to retain yourself, and make sure that no matter how much you've got going on, you never lose sight of like why you started doing it and who you actually are beneath all the roles and all of this. Yeah. No, absolutely fantastic advice, gotta say. So pivoting slightly then to something that we always like to touch on is social media. How do you in general feel about it for your career? Is like, do you see it as sort of one of those necessary evils that you kind of have to use to get somewhere, or are you actually quite a big fan of it and think it's a pretty good tool?
I mean, it's a great tool for, just getting eyes and ears on your projects and letting people know what's going on. But I definitely, it's not my favorite thing in the world. I can't lie. It's not, um, it's crazy to me how it's become such an integral part of the music and film industry in recent years. How even now casting directors are like, if you don't have a social media, we don't have a way of seeing who you are and like, kind of getting a rundown of your person. But yeah, no, it's it just feels very ostentatious, performative. Social media is fake. At the end of the day, like it's it's never, a true representation of who a person is. And I kind of hate that it can feel like for a lot of things, even okay, so like last year I'm also a student, a film student, so I started at university and people would take one look at my social media and they're like, oh my god, who's this red carpet girl? That was like my nickname. And I'm like, all right. I feel like it paints such a singular picture and such a flat picture of, multifaceted individuals. Like you can never really encapsulate all that you are in just a social media page, especially, when it comes to when you're doing it for work, because obviously you're just going to post what looks great. You don't see my bad days. You don't see when I'm like falling off of a treadmill and like scraping up my leg. Like you don't see that. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Yeah, it's not
accurate.
that straightforward. It's not so cut and dry.
Exactly. But I do appreciate it because it's given me a lot of opportunities and been a great way to like grow my audience. And I'm so grateful for all my supporters. But yeah, no, it can rub me the wrong way and leave not the greatest taste in my mouth when it comes to just like certain things like that.
Interesting. I mean, it's a very mature and like insightful way to look at it, to be honest. It's like I personally have never considered what you just said there, actually. But yeah, it's that you really do get to choose just what people see, and it's not necessarily a true representation of everything. It's like, yeah, that's interesting, really. So yeah. So if we just switch up a tiny little bit then and go back to the film industry, in the general like wider scheme of it, what would you like to see heading forward? Because it's obviously evolved and changed a lot in both recent years and just since its inception. If you had to choose, what's one thing that you would change about the industry in general, stepping forward into the next, I don't know, decade?
Hmm. I would love to see the industry not be so contingent on the story, the hook, the grab, the off-screen romances, you know? Like I would love for us to really shift and appreciate the art for what it is, you know? I really do miss the days where it was just like you loved and appreciated a film for the film, not because there was like some big story or drama or like people shifted their appearance for it or you know I would love to just stay grounded in film for what it is. And not to say like it can go both ways again like it's great even like receiving so much support from the institute and people saying that they love it and it's great so overwhelming but I like it's so I appreciate it so much because of course I've been on the other end of that um admiring different actresses and artists for their performances for sure. Um, but I think it doesn't have to be so attached to yeah like the stories or the media or you know I just wish it didn't always have to be so I guess like drama encircled you know.
Yeah, no, I totally see what you mean. Again, I think so many of the tabloids and just general news outlets are way more interested in this person's done this on set, or you know, could production be halted because of this? It's like, does that really matter? It's like, come on, we're trying to see the film or the series. We really don't care about like what Jimmy's done with his weekend. But
Exactly.
no, totally. Yeah, it's a huge problem. I totally level with you on that one. So yeah, I think it's interesting actually looking at that. And let's go back to as well. You said that sometimes you get pretty nervous as well. How do you go about doing auditions then? Because I think when casting announcements are made, a lot of people get like scrutiny, like, oh, they don't suit that role, or oh, this person should have been it, or whatever. I mean, it's especially prevalent at the minute with people guessing who Batman's going to be. It's a scary space, isn't it, when those kind of rumors are going around? So, for you, how do you face the nerves of what are people going to think, or am I even going to get this role? What do you do going into auditions to sort of say, Zen, it's going to be all right?
Yeah, well, I think I'm a big believer of whatever's meant to find you will. So I think just going into any audition with that mentality of, you know, I'm obviously going to do my best, and if it works out, great. If it doesn't, it's making room for another opportunity that's maybe better suited for me. And yeah, in terms of like when things come out, you know, when like the article drops of the cast, it can be a little daunting, but I just try to stay, you know, pretty detached from it. I'm not really someone to like go into like the Reddit threads or whatever.
Oh, stay away from Reddit. No one needs Reddit. Oh no.
Like I'm not gonna hurt my own feelings like that, you know. There's no need. You know, you're allowed to say whatever you want. You know, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah, no one's. I think there's like three brain cells between all the users of Reddit. It's really not worth it.
And yeah, you know what? That's great. You keep your space, I'll keep mine, and you know we'll be fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, keep a level head. It'll keep you sane, won't it? So, yeah, I mean, in that retrospect, then, are there any actors or actresses that you particularly look up to, and is there any qualities in their work ethic that you sort of admire and want to say, I want to do what they're doing?
Hmm. Oh, I mean, it's such I feel like it changes every day depending on like what film I've just watched.
Hmm.
Um, but I will say so many. Okay, if I had to pick one for right now, the first person who came to mind right now is like Sydney Sweeney. I think like the way that she's really like her ethic is crazy, and like she's yeah, like still very grounded in who she is as a person, but also yeah, like the I love that she kind of has like her foot in every genre, you know, with Euphoria and like the new film that she's just done, brilliant. Um, but also anyone but you, like I love her versatility, and that's something that I really would love to also emulate going forward in my career. In terms of, you know, I started in comedy and now getting to dive into thriller and drama, and I hope I get to continue down that road, and you know, maybe a romance in the future. We'll see. But also, I would say in terms of music, Lizzie McAlpine, she's always been like a huge inspiration to me. Sorry, it's my dog. Lyrically, she is just such a storyteller through and through, even musically. Like her chord progressions are um, always indicative of what she's saying in the story. So like if she's not sure of something, the chord will be an open chord, so it doesn't necessarily signify if it's happy or sad. But it's just like those little subliminal things that she um, slips into her music that you don't necessarily, the average listener wouldn't necessarily know why they're feeling this way, but they feel it. And I love that.
Interesting. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, those are definitely some qualities to sort of, yeah, no, absolutely great things to aim for, I'd say. So that leads me on then to, I'd say this is probably a pretty big open-ended question, really, that you can answer to your own experiences. Just in general, being a creative and having your foot in these doors of both music and acting, what would you say are the biggest challenges of actually breaking your way through those doors and getting into those industries?
I would say in terms of music, it's definitely an oversaturated industry as of late, just because anybody could put out music and call themselves a producer or musician or you know whatever. But I think it's for music, people think that you have to make noise just to get eyes on your project, but a lot you can still make an impact without necessarily watering yourself down to like a trend or whatever, you know? Like I feel like as long as you are true to yourself and uh are making things that resonate with you, it will resonate and impact other people. So I would say for music, just um don't cater yourself to what you think is popular right now, because if you do that, you're just getting kind of glommed into this big group of people who are doing the same thing, like as long as or as opposed to like staying singular and doing your own thing. And yes, it's a lot and you know, you have to be consistent, and it's it's definitely one of those industries where if you don't have the passion for it, don't waste your time. And I know that's kind of harsh, but still, it's a lot to put
Take on
yourself out.
notice.
Yeah, it's a lot to put yourself out there and not necessarily see a lot of response to it right away. It's a very uh, slow boiling. Slow is a very slow boil. But it's if you're consistent and true to yourself, it'll definitely come to fruition. And as for acting, I would say I think for me, my biggest struggle starting out, and even today, is just uh, kind of being trepidatious or you know, feeling that imposter syndrome, like stepping onto any set. Any of my castmates will tell you, like she apologizes every 5 seconds, and you know what? I'm Canadian, so maybe that's something to do with it. But I think
You're not beating the allegations.
yeah, it's not my fault, okay? But I think just don't be overly apologetic for taking up space that you earned. Um, I think, you know, at the end of the day, if I'm ever being cast in a project, I have to go in thinking, well, you know, I've done something right, or else I wouldn't be here. And you know, obviously, there's always going to be nerves, and that just means you care. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. So as long as you can hone them and turn them to your performance, and always kind of keep that sentiment of I'm here for a reason, and if I wasn't right for this part, I wouldn't be cast.
Yeah. Don't feel sorry for taking space that you want. Is that like a Banksy or something? Like not a Banksy, a Gandhi or something, it's like that that's probably one for the quote book actually. That's a really good piece of advice actually. That's great. So you mentioned as well that you don't think people should like try and mold themselves into whatever's popular or whatever's big at the moment. What do you think is big and popular at the moment? And how do you think we could, is there things that you like about what is, and is there things that you want to change about what is?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I that's not to say that like there isn't amazing, great things going on that are trending, and I'm
Hmm.
not a fan. Like I'm a huge fan. Especially like in the music industry. Like I love that, we've kind of given grace to certain genres that maybe weren't everyone's favorite a few years ago in terms of like country music, which I love country music. R&B music has really circulated and made its way back into like more pop mainstream music at the moment. But I think it's just more I say try not to necessarily emulate um, artists that already exist to a T. Because at the end of the day, like I feel like specifically in music, people are always like, okay, like what's an artist that you sound like? Who's an artist that you want to be like? That artist already exists. Sure, like definitely take inspiration, but if you're gonna create a song that already exists and change like three lyrics and maybe two chords, people aren't gonna necessarily identify with it because they've already heard it. It's already a story that's being told and to such a big capacity. So why try to like break your way in an already populated space when you could say what you actually want to say and be true to yourself and take your singular route and hold on to your independence, because ultimately that's what people will identify with, and what'll draw people to you. They'll be like, oh my god, what's this girl doing? This is it's different and not like what I've heard before. But I don't know, again, like everyone's just doing their best. And but yeah, no, I take everything with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, like my what works for me may not work for you. Maybe you're doing your thing and making very trendy music, which is amazing, and I applaud you and salute you, and I hope wish you nothing but the best. But yeah, everyone's career path's kind of different, but that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, again, fantastic insight there. But I do want to say, you said about certain music genres coming back. I was so here for the return of 2000s girly pop music. I don't know what's happened in recent months, but not even recent months, but like recent past few years. Like we've had Chapel and stuff. I was so here for it, can I say? I was so here for it.
No, me too. Like, let's bring it back. Absolutely. Like, I love a good song that you can just kind of like. It's the kind of music that you're on a drive with your friends and like blasting it 2 in the morning on the way to Dairy Queen or like an ice cream shop or whatever. Like,
I
uh,
like that you translated Dairy Queen to ice cream shop there for me, for us British folk, since we'd have no idea what that is.
no,
I'm
I just
joking, of course.
realized I was just
We
in
do
London a
though.
few weeks ago, so I was like, oh, let me just clarify.
Fair point. I don't even know if we do have it, to be honest. I'm just assuming at this point. But no, no, totally. Yeah, I think it's great to see just a wide variety of stuff getting big again. Absolutely with you there. So I've got two huge questions to end off for you with. The first one being, for you personally, what does the dream role or set look like to you?
Ooh, huge, huge question. I mean, okay, dream set. Okay, dream role would be anything in and around the realm of Memento. That is my favorite film of all time. I think it is brilliant. Genius in storytelling, and also Guy Pearce just gives like an incredible performance, and also the way that it was filmed in like I believe it was filmed in it was like some crazy like 17 days or something like that, which is just beyond. but yeah, just something that I can really sink my teeth into, and something that would challenge me a lot. Not to say that like my roles haven't, but I think it would just be something completely new to explore. But in terms of like a set that I'd really love to see is a set more inclusive. A lot of the times you step onto set and it's just a lot of straight white men, which is great. I mean, like amazing. Like that's not to say I'm not a hater at all. But I think there are certain stories that require maybe a gentler touch, or a perspective that only certain groups in terms of gender and race can really tell. And I feel like when these stories are, in the hands of people who don't necessarily identify with them, or can't can't understand because they haven't lived it, um, it can be a bit frustrating. But yeah, no, it's just it's the film industry is definitely always, kind of been a male dominated industry, and a white dominated industry, and I would love to see more of a shift there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm curious to hear your take on this argument then, because this is something I've always been very passionate about saying, is that whenever casting announcements come out for like famous characters, so for example, a big one that comes to my head was, is it Halle Bailey when she was cast as the Little Mermaid? I remember a lot of people getting up in arms about that, always been and continues to be. It's like, look, if you want these accurate portrayals of these characters, it's like you've got to realize that these actors of color kind of need a career of their own. And the reason they're not getting roles that better suit them is because those stories aren't being told. And if they are being told, they're not being promoted whatsoever. And I think that is a massive, massive problem. And I think we really need to let, again, it's one thing having, women and people of color actors on set, but we also kind of need more directors from that background to be able to tell those stories more accurately and more, true to life.
Exactly. Oh yeah, just that. You said it beautifully. But I also feel like in respects to, yeah, like you said specifically, like Halle Bailey and The Little Mermaid, she got so much hate, and at the end of the day, it's like the role wasn't contingent on her being white. It had nothing to do with the role itself. Like it really, it was so sad to like see, um, her get so much hate for obviously something she can't control. Also, it's not like she casted herself in the role. Like it wasn't her decision. Of course, like who wouldn't say yes to that role, but like it's not like she was the one in charge of making that call. And also, it like cuz when I initially heard that or saw like she was playing the role, I was over the moon just because I have so many friends and like little cousins, family members who were finally like, "Oh my God, a Disney princess that looks like me, like I can identify to her, like that could be me, like I can see myself in that." And I know growing up, like I would have killed for that kind of representation. So to see so many people bring so much hate to something that was so enlightening for so many little girls is so disheartening. And yeah, I just hope moving forward the industry can just give a little bit more grace to our people of color.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we as a collective just kind of need to stop giving Twitter.com any attention as well, because I think Twitter.com, when they realize that actors are people that need to make money and will take roles because it gets them money, it's like they don't really seem to get they don't seem to get the concept. But no, absolutely. I think any role is cast because the person went to an audition and they were best suited for the character. I think it's ridiculous that people believe anything otherwise. But go on then. Moving swiftly on to the biggest question that we've got in this entire interview. If you had to sum it down to one thing that you've done in your entire lifetime career, what would you say is your proudest achievement to date?
Ooh. Ooh.
You can only pick one, by the way. There's no like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe no. I want one.
That's evil. I can't. Oh my God. Well, it's hard to say because every experience has kind of been a stepping stone to the next. So I have to, give every experience that I've had its flowers because, brick by brick, it's built me into where I am now. Oh, it's hard because I'm like, I'm just trying to choose between like music and acting, and it's like because I have
Okay, I tell you what, do one from each then. I won't be that cruel. You can do one from each.
Yeah, the loopholes. Um, okay, I would say for acting, it's definitely been the Institute. I think out of all of my experiences, I've learned the most on this set. Just being able to work with such vetted cast members and creatives has just been like the best masterclass I could ever take. But also, I think it's really opened me up to trusting myself with more nuanced and multifaceted roles. I think for a long time, working in the comedy space, I didn't necessarily know that I had the capacity to like move into something a little bit more sultry and delicate. But yeah, I think it really um, it was really validating and just the best experience that I've had on set, and I'm so eternally grateful to every cast member, every crew member, every creative on that set, because they've really altered me as an actor forever. I remember even when I got back, like starting to audition again, my agents were like, "Wow, you've really sharpened your tool shed. Like you are a so like you've become such an elevated version of yourself through this experience, and it really shows through in how you approach auditioning now." And yeah, that's just such a gift. But as for music, I would say that's out. I would say the project that I did for my single Older, where I had the opportunity to make a music video, which I wrote and directed. And I think that also really opened my eyes to wanting to direct more moving forward. And I'm doing it. And but I think it was like the first time that, again, that I really stepped back and I was like, yeah, no, I can do this. And I worked with such an incredible team of women, and getting to be on a set that was mine and uh, fully fully supported by women and people of color was just such a beautiful experience. And yeah, it really recontextualized my relationship to film and to music, and what I wanted to see and what I wanted to create moving forward, what I wanted to yeah, like being able to create the things that I wanted to see in the industry. That was a really powerful experience, the first time that I was able to do that with Older. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. No, absolutely. I mean, huge congratulations on everything that you've managed to do, especially the stuff that you've built off your own back and done on your own. It is immensely, immensely impressive. So seriously, every ounce of respect from me. But yeah, I mean, Simone, thank you ever so much for talking with me today. It's been absolutely incredible. And just best of luck with everything you've got coming up.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure getting to talk to you.